album we say, Cry of the Caribbean, keep the rhythm going. This one for Grenada, this one for St. Vincent, this one for Barbados, this one for Trinidad and Tobago. All the Caribbean, we say Cry of the Caribbean. From our album 1992, to all our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean, we say we ballin'. Number one in the Caribbean heart. Oh, yo, yo. There's too much pressure. Murder. This one, great. The Caribbean seen so much trouble. The Caribbean in pain. Like we on the losing end of some kind of loser game. We all end up owing money we could never pay back no time. So we just keep living with life one day at a time. So I'm calling on the powers that be. If this time you do something and set the Caribbean free. Oi, 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 that song you're hearing. The Caribbean crying. Washington do something. Oi, 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 oi. There's too much pressure. We're balling murder. Caribbean on fire. Jamaicans owing so much money, I hear the whole family. Antigua and Guyana don't know when they're going to pay. St. Vincent, St. Kitts, St. Lucia, even Haiti too. Barbados and Guyana balling, we don't know what to do. So before this day end up in a mess, why not rise up all the load and let we start afresh? What? Oi, 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 that song you're hearing. The Caribbean crying. Washington do something. Oi, 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 there's so much pressure. I say we balling murder and we are on fire. Remember when Grenada started getting out of hand? The land troops in the country just so without hesitation. They do the same thing down in Panama with Strom and Noriga. They are the official world police protecting all over. So if they are prepared to guard the freedom, why not do the same damn thing and help we fight starvation? Oi, oi, that song you're hearing, the Caribbean crying, Washington do something. Oh, oi, 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 there's too much pressure, murder, murder, fire, fire. Nice one. IMF and IPD bank keep breathing down with neck. It's on the loan we scheduling yearly, we can't pay with that. It's on the interest and more interest, pushing down with growth. Don't care what we doing this time, we can make a go. So I say this bill, getting out of hand. So my sake, it's time that Washington come up with a plan. Oi, oi, that song you're hearing, the Caribbean crying, Washington do something. Oh, oh, yo, yo. It's too much murder, fire. Nice one. IMF and I with the bank ship, bring it down with neck. It's on the load, we schedule it yearly, we can't pay with that. It's on the interest and more interest, pushing down with growth. Don't care what we do in this time, we can make that move. So I say this day, getting out the hand. To my sake, it's time that Washington come up with a plan. Oi, oi, that song you're hearing, the Caribbean crying, Washington do something. Oi, oh, no, murder, fire. Oh, yo, yo, yeah, yeah. Outside. Your
all the people who sent me congratulations from New York, etc., letters, telegrams, and it's a greater pleasure to be singing in New York. To say that my victory in the Calypso Rob's weakness will be no key. So, and you must know that when you have music like such beautiful music, you hear a nice chorus and the girls, Kaiso is not going to stay in the hospital too long. So give the band and the chorus girls a beautiful round of applause. And then they dedicate this song because something is happening in the Caribbean today. And while we sing and we dance, we must understand what's happening in the Caribbean. I call this one Sea, Water, and Sand. I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoy doing it. Special for the girls, special for the ladies on the left. Yeah, right. Oh, like doing, like that. Every Caribbean leader working well with one another. Everyone trying to put states and make Jamaica devalue $. Well, countries who are more wealthy and they laughing out kiki and making style. It's time that you and Eugenia Charles understand that all you have is just water and sun. Oh, like doing like that. And every Caribbean leader, instead of pulling together, they prefer to friend with Reagan and Thatcher. Dominican suffering bad, their goods can't get to Trinidad, cause Trini ain't giving license, it is sad. Trini saying it's big racket, they want to flood Trinidad's market with all their cheap inferior goods, and they won't accept it, but they want the re-register as the national carrier. No way, sir, Antigua turned down their offer. This time them Antigans understand. You got to help each other in the region. You can make treaties with France and Japan, and with your own people you can join hands. Mr. Burden tourists that come St. John, they need the week for their transportation. It's time that you and Robinson walk hand in hand, cause Antigua is just the water and sun. Oh, like that. For people who just places, they feel that their country is best, cause they have more foreign exchange than the rest. Others walking high and mighty, claiming they have stability, cause their dollar in US is worth plenty. And they meeting regularly, drawing up all kind of treaty, and after they drink the whiskey, the treaty dead already. At the heads of government conference, is mere shop talk and ignorance. Lots of talk, but no action ever comments. This time we Trinidadians understand. We got to help the other small islands. We can eat pitch and oil with rice and jam. We got to trade it for Grenadian yam. All the oil we have in our nation, it's just a drop in the Arabian Ocean. And stop telling Guyanese they from the mudland, cause all you have is just the water and sun. Hey! The pulling together, they prefer to friend with Reagan and Thatcher. Dominican suffering bad, their goods can't get to Trinidad, cause Trini ain't giving license, it is sad. Trini saying it's big racket, they want to flood Trinidad's market with all their cheap inferior goods, and they won't accept it, but they want the re-register as the national carrier. No way, sir, Antigua turned down their offer. This time them Antigans understand. You got to help each other in the region. You can make treaties with France and Japan, and with your own people you can join hands. Mr. Burden tourists that come St. John, they need the week for their transportation. It's time that you and Robinson walk hand in hand, cause Antigua is just the water and sun. Oh, like that. Some people just places, they feel that their country is best, cause they have more foreign exchange than the rest. Others walking high and mighty, claiming they have stability, cause their dollar in US is worth plenty. And they're meeting regularly, drawing up all kind of treaty. And after they drink their whiskey, the treaty dead already. At the heads of government conference, is mere shop talk and ignorance. Lots of talk, but no action ever comments. This time we Trinidadians understand. We got to help the other small islands. We can eat pitch and oil with rice and jam. We got to trade it for Grenadian yam. All the oil we have in our nation is just a drop in the Arabian Ocean. And stop telling Guyanese they from the mudland, cause all you have is just water and sun. Hey! Oh, night time.
All right, here we are. Good evening to all of you, and welcome to Politics 101. This evening, on a Thursday evening, we're going to be doing it. Two champions there, the mighty chalk dust. All we have is seawater and sand. You know, and before that, the black man himself, Black Stallion, the Caribbean crying, Washington, do something. And you may be saying, well, why you calling on Washington to do something? He said, Washington, we don't want war. What we want is to fight poverty. You know, I had the bad pleasure of going through the PhD story, you know, and going to them. When I listen to these brothers, PhD, grant them it, they ain't got to write another word. PhD, each of those, Calypso is a thesis. And I always say, as you all know, we are the only people in the world who dance to politics. My students ask me that all the time, but them fellas singing some serious stuff there and people partying. And I usually say to them, they understand what the singer is saying. It's a conversation between the calypso and the audience. Greatest musical genre the world has produced. And I say that, and I will defend that any day. There is Trogdus talking about Caribbean unity, but also taking a strong anti-imperialist position. All you have is seawater and sand, meaning you're small, band together, Caribbean integration. But instead of that, you gone with Reagan, you gone with Thatcher and so on. It was back in that time. Caribbean integration, anti-imperialism. And of course, Brother Stalin, the black man, saying it plain, oi, oi, the Caribbean balling. Washington, do something. You want to be the world policeman? You land troops in Grenada, you take out Noriega. Why you don't land troops in South Africa? Oi, oi. Good evening to all of you and welcome to Politics 101. Tonight, we have Brother Gerald Pereira, who doesn't get to come on very much, and put that on me. Put that on me because, you know, sometimes the breeze don't carry me wrong, Pereira. But you remember a couple of weeks, well, last week, I said that I cut my teeth on a particular kind of politics. There was a combination of Caribbean integration, anti-imperialism, Pan-Africanism / Black nationalism, and that when you mix that together, that was the ideological underpinning of my generation that came of age in the 1970s. Of course, some people from the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. You know, when you talk about ideology, and I left out working class upliftment. Some call it socialism, some call it all kind of story. But I am not getting into the ism and the schism. I'm saying working class upliftment, Caribbean integration, anti-imperialism, and Black nationalism. If you want to understand my politics, you have to understand the synthesis of those four things. If you want to understand Gerald Pereira politics, I hear you come Freddie show, Freddie, oh, Gerald, you're the longest Pan-Africanism and Pan-Africanism. You know, when you say that, you isolate. You isolate. Gerald, you put in a card, but Gerald is more than a Pan. Many people call themselves Pan-Africanists. But it's when you mix the Pan-Africanism with Caribbean integration, anti-imperialism, and working class liberation, the Pan-Africanism take on a different meaning. It's not just Black people and so on. The Black people are there, but Black people within a particular context. And that's what I'm talking about. That on a program like this, what makes the difference is that we come from an informed, activist position. Are you hear me? I'm not just talking when we're reading books. Of course, I read books too, right? But what you've been involved with and the intersection and the cross-section. Because as a Guyanese people and Caribbean people, we can't be straight line. Because when you're on the plantation, you're dodging bullets every day. The bullets coming from all directions. And you master the art of operating at different levels simultaneously. And that is the genius of the Caribbean man, woman, and child. And tonight we want to talk some of that politics. You know, don't get me wrong, I'm a partisan, you all know that, right? I belong to a political party. Don't get me wrong, I'm fiercely Black. And when they interfere with Black people in Buxton, or in Guyana, sorry, they interfere with me. I am fiercely Guyanese because my people, whether it's poor people or Black people, we help to make Guyana what it is. And I'm not giving it up to nobody, intellectually or otherwise. And of course, I'm a Caribbean man. Caribbean man, strong. Strong. I know you're all vexed with CARICOM and so on, but Caribbean is beyond CARICOM. All right. Gerald.
Yes, my brother.
They say that people like you and me are stuck in the 70s. And some of our friends say that. They say the young people NY nothing but Pan-Africanism and anti-imperialism and Caribbean integration. All they want to hear about is where it coming from. To critique that thesis for us.
Well, it's interesting, you know, because the people who are pushing that narrative, they're happy. They are quite happy if we don't look at our history, understand who we are and where we came from. I think it's C.L.R. James wrote that book, that the future is in the present.
The future in the present. Future in the
Yes.
present, yes.
And to understand the present and to shape the future, we need to understand the past. History is not just a chronological, we look at their personalities and events. It's a dynamic. And if we don't read it, then we're bound to repeat all the mistakes. You know, I listen to Chalk Dust. Chalk Dust is amazing, and I agree with you. Just grant those guys the PhD, because today I see we granting honorary doctorates to Tom, Dick, and Harry. But Chalk Dust is I like Black Stalin, but Chalk Dust is really amazing, solidly anti-imperialist. But you pointed out something, David, that I agree with. You know, I just want to let people see where I'm coming from. When I was in high school, I attended Central High School, and it was very political. We had Rudy Luck, who was the deputy principal, and he was from the PPP. He was Marxist in his orientation. We had Professor Hubert Devnish, who's at UWI. He wrote that book on language and liberation. He's the first person that brought a copy of Walter Rodney Groundings with my brothers into the fifth form and circulated it, and we went out to get it, right? But we had T. Anson Sanko too, who was teaching economics and all of that. And we were I was known, I had names like, they used to call me Mao because I carry Mao Zedong Red Book to school. The quotations of Mao, and people called me Fidel. I was known for that, but I was always politically active. And so then I joined Askria. I went down to the compound, two others, and we joined Askria. And Brother Koyana used to leave Buxton on Fridays, and he would come down to the compound and meet three of us to have a discussion with us on African history and culture and all that, Brother Koyana. And it was at the compound that I first saw Brother Tukuma. I didn't really, I saw him there. He had a group called Tuta Shindo. I always remind him of that. And my Pan-Africanism is shaped by a man I have tremendous respect for his sincerity, and he's very incorruptible. You know, that man with corruption, there is three persons on this planet that are not corrupt, U.C. Koyana is in that tree. Just incorruptible. U.C. Koyana, an amazing person. So he helped shape my Pan-Africanism. I met another brother who had been, in those days, I think he was in service. They used to call it in service teachers training in Kingston. Kwame Apata. Brother Kwame Apata. And then, of course, with Kwame Toure, formerly Stokely Carmichael, and so on, I never turned back. Why I'm saying that is because you are right. Pan-Africanism is, you have to, when we speak about Pan-Africanism / revolutionary black nationalism, is anti-imperialist. And we draw from a lot of African revolutionary traditions. Today we had this Ubuntu, Ujamo under Julius Nyerere in Tanzania. And today we have Afrocentricity, where we speak about African agency, and Afrocentricity is not a some knee-jerk reaction to Eurocentricity. No, it's authentic, it's separate, and it's about Africans, African agency, and Africans speaking to African from an African's perspective and interpreting the world through the eyes of Africans rather than through the eyes of the other. So I agree with you, you know, that all revolutionary Pan-Africanism is anti-imperialist. The other thing is Pan-Africanism is anti-racist. It's anti-racism. We are not anti-anyone because we're not anti-white people because of their ethnicity, or anti-Indian or anybody because of their ethnicity. We're anti-white supremacy and all forms of ethnic supremacy. Because I mentioned this, I think I mentioned this on your program some time ago, David. There is no such thing as Black or African racism. Prejudice and racism are two different things. You're aware of that. There is no country on planet Earth where Black people have political, economic, and military power, and they use that power to dominate other races. Right? Let me give you an example in Zimbabwe. Look at Ian Smith. Ian Smith killed thousands of white people, and yet was living 100 miles out of Harare, still abusing Robert Mugabe, cussing out Robert Mugabe, and Mugabe left him there on his farm. And Smith went and died at a hospital in South Africa. If it was the other way around, Mugabe would have been executed. If it was the other way around, Mugabe would have been executed. I'll give you another example. When the South African Truth and Reconciliation Committee with Desmond Tutu, who is the chairperson, they had people appearing before the committee, and they had some agents from the then boss, Bureau of State Security, the apartheid secret service. And there was this elderly couple. They were listening to the some of the agents confessing to what they did with some of the freedom fighters, what they did to those who opposed the regime. People were kidnapped, killed, and dumped, never found their bodies. And you had an African couple, an elderly couple, just begging this Boer, this white man, said, look, we don't have anything against you, forgive me, but just tell us where the body is so that we can reclaim the body and give it a decent burial. And on the other hand, there was a elderly white woman whose son he was supporting their liberation struggle. He was killed, and she was calling for blood. I'm showing you the moral superiority that is inherent in the African tradition and African spirituality. A very, and it's part of our culture and ethos, a very forgiving people. A very forgiving people.
A very forgiving people. Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And what is important for us to know, David, is that we have to, the young generation, it's important that this generation, we have to get them, they have to read, they have to study and understand our history and where we're going. Just to dismiss it and saying that we're living in the past, no, we're not. We are very much in the present. And it's because we understand the past that we are able to predict the future very accurately. Very accurately.
Very accurately. Gerald, you know, I'm going to ask some questions tonight. And those of you who are in the audience, please share the link. And because this discussion tonight is going to take us to some places we don't normally go to. So please share the link. And yesterday, I couldn't make it. I was traveling yesterday after the program on Tuesday night. I was traveling. And I just want to say thanks to all those Guyanese who I met in my travel, starting on Tuesday night into yesterday. All those who came up for selfies, all those who asked me questions, all those who gave me suggestions, all those who answered questions. And I want to especially say a big shout out because almost 75% of the people who came up to me were Indian Guyanese. And I'm on this program, I say publicly all the time, when I think I got it wrong. Um, I know that there is a core of Indian Guyanese who are dread towards me. They call me all kinds of names. But I'm telling you, three-quarters of the people who came up to me at Chelly Jagan Airport, I passed through JFK on my way to Arizona. And the majority were Indian Guyanese. Amazing, they were not hostile. One even said that, look, I'm a PPP. But I love you. I actually said, I love you. And he said, please tell your audience who are angry with you when you say you love Barajagdio, tell them you meet an African, you meet an Indian who's PPP, but who loves you. And I'm saying that to tell you that sometimes we have to engage with people and listen to people. And it tells us things that we sometimes don't know. But the one that took the cake was the young lady. She's gonna be more than 30, hustling to go through the security, and she was manning the line and so on, and she stretched across and say, "Don't give them all the trouble. Give them some trouble and keep some for later." She thought I was coming home. Not coming home. And she said, "Won't give them." I didn't even get to ask her name, which is as I usually do, because I was going my business and she was conducting her business. But took time out to say that. Again, thanks to all of those people. I would say on that journey, I would say about 60 people, and I may be underestimating the number of people who came up to me and said something, took pictures, and like I said, I think over 50% of them were Indian Guyanese. The young Indian man from Enmore who reminded me that I was part of the first intake at Bladenhall Multilateral School in 1975 when he was a little boy, and he remembered me doing drama and so on and so forth, and that he has always followed us. Involved people like Henry Rodney and others who were part of that batch. I just want to say thank you, because often we political people don't take time out to say thank you. I managed to catch up with Shimran Etmaya, who was traveling out on the same flight, going to Dubai, and I tell him how much gray hair he gave me, and and how many years he take off my life, and that I challenge he for the next couple of years to take out my gray hair and give me back my life. It was nice talking to Etmaya the young man from Guyana who just got Pick Quinton, the new sensation, and of course the coach, Ryan Griffith, who happens to be a relative. They were all traveling out. It was nice chatting with them. So thank you, those of you who are listening. I thank the lady who, as I walked in to the airport at Chelly Jagan, she said, "Dr. Isa, meet before you." Because I listened to the program, and when the program done, I take the trip to Timeri and I meet him before you. Thank you all. Thank you all. Without you, we are not doing anything. And this struggle is about you all. Gerald Pereira is on tonight. He's the leader of an organization called a political party, a political organization called Organization for the Victory of the People. He, like I said, he is part of that rare breed, that person who synthesizes Caribbean integration, Pan-Africanism, anti-imperialism, and what we loosely call socialism, what I'm calling working class liberation. And so he brings that perspective. Now, Gerald, we are seeing the world, and I'm saying the world. The United States went to Venezuela, snatched the Venezuelan leader, took him away. The Iranians are The Iranian government is in conflict with protesters. Blood is being shed. And I want to include the Israelis continue over 300,000 killed in Gaza, Palestinians. Russia is still engaging there in the Ukraine, and President Trump is threatening to snatch Greenland, to take over Greenland. And I want to ask you, because if you take each of those things separately, you arrive at a particular conclusion. But if you take them all together, I think my experience as an academic tells me that you arrive at a different conclusion. And so put all those things together and tell us, what is it that we are seeing, Gerald Pereira?
You know, David, I wrote a piece on this. One of the biggest cons ever invented on trust and humanity is what is known as liberal democracy. When you go back, I don't want to really get into that now, but when you go back and you examine the philosophers of the so-called, we call it the so-called European Enlightenment tradition, most of them, because many of the liberal philosophers from the Enlightenment tradition, they did not think much of Africans. They did not think much of Africans. Hegel himself said that Africa is outside of history.
Yes.
You know, there were some of those philosophers.
And Hegel, I mean, just for our audience, I mean, Hegel is the man who is credited with the theory of dialectics.
That's right.
Karl Marx himself was called a young Hegelian.
Hegelian, yes.
Right.
And
so
he
Hegel
took Hegel and put him up, upside down.
Hegel was standing on his head, and Marx said, take it off here and put it.
That's right. He broke
so
with the
Hegel is not,
idealism.
In terms of Western philosophy, Hegel is big.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So that's right.
But he put African people outside of history.
Yes, that's right. And that you had those, some of them had even invested in the trade in captured Africans.
Right.
So fast forward, let's look at today. The friendly fascism that promoted human rights and pluralism and rule of law and all of that has been stripped naked, and we're seeing the naked fascism of the present regime in the United States. Trump is crude. Trump says what he wants to say. Trump doesn't hold back. So when you look at what he did in Venezuela, we should not be surprised. I mean, how could you, and this is what is sad, David, Trump went into Venezuela and you kidnapped a sitting president, a head of state, who won an election, and and you kidnap him and take him to the capital, you take him to one of the cities of the empire, right? This is not even before the ICJ or the ICC, right? Because America is not a signatory to those bodies, but you did that. And I want to say that Maduro, who won the election. Now, Jimmy Carter went to Venezuela and he said it's one of the freest elections and fairest elections he's ever witnessed, and that the system is so tight that it is impossible to rig. Before the votes could have been completed, the opposition backed by the United States was saying that Maduro was rigging. Now, you had more than 890 observers, 1,000-something observers that went from South Africa, from Nigeria, different, the EFF, the Economic Freedom Fighters from South Africa, people from Namibia, the United States, the Black Alliance of Peace, their Constitutional Rights Committee. All these bodies went there went to the polling station and everything. And this lie, this narrative that was pushed by the West, and then you have people in Guyana and parts of the Caribbean
Hold before we get to the people in Guyana and parts of the Caribbean, because Gerald, you have to put what you said there in its larger context.
Yes.
All right? Part of the population of Venezuela thought the elections were rigged. That's a fact. Whether or not, they thought the elections were rigged. Maduro was not kind to Guyana. He claimed, an all claim, but he supported the claim on Guyana's land. So what I'm trying to say to you, put in context what you think is, as you said just now, the Americans lie against Maduro, but Maduro claimed to Guyana's land, and the fact that half of the population or some of the population in Venezuela thought the elections were rigged.
Okay, first of all, David, I want to make this crystal clear.
Yeah.
Our dispute, this territorial issue between Guyana and Venezuela has its roots in West European colonialism. We know this.
Right.
But now, I've always argued, when you do the research on this territorial issue between Guyana and Venezuela, you will see that the United States has always supported Venezuela on this issue. Now, some people memory are shallow, some have convenient memory, some just don't want to remember. The right-wing Venezuelan government invaded, and allies of the United States invaded and took the Guyana side of Ancoco.
That was under Perez?
This was Perez was Democratic Action. I think it was under Copey, a Christian Democrat government.
Right.
Before.
Okay. Right.
Did anybody until now, they still occupy it, right? Successive governments come in and Coco has always been. No, the United States never told Venezuela or the British to give back that part that they occupied to Guyana. It was just there. Now, when I am saying that the territorial issue has always been used by the United States, always, against any government that the US is opposed to, whether that government is in Guyana or Venezuela. Okay? When Forbes Burnham, as I pointed out to you sometime, Burnham, a great leader he was, Burnham allowed the Cuban fighters going to South Africa for the planes to land here to refuel onto Angola. And when the Americans found out, the Americans threatened that they were going to bomb the airport. Burnham did not back down because Guyana took a very solid position in the anti-apartheid struggle. When Guyana was supporting the liberation struggle of the frontline states and Cuban troops were going to the frontline states and lay down their lives, the United States, Britain, and France were supporting the racist apartheid regime of South Africa. Good. I think it was only 1 year before Mandela died, before his name was officially removed from the American list of individuals and organizations listed as terrorists, Mandela. So they were supporting apartheid. Coming back to Guyana and Venezuela, they even knew that Israel had transferred nuclear technology, the components and the know-how to South Africa, so that South Africa could assemble a nuclear bomb and use it on the frontline states. When Mandela, part of the negotiation with the clerk for Mandela in the transition to the ANC government, the new black government, was Mandela's government had to give up the nuclear weapons to the British and the Americans. So it was okay for a white regime to have nuclear bombs to nuke black people, Africans, but the nuclear bomb should not be in the hands of African leaders. So at the time when Burnham was supporting the liberation struggle and allowed the Cubans to refuel it, took solid positions in the anti-imperialist positions in the non-aligned movement, like recognizing the Sahrawi people right to the West Sahara, support when Rashid Jackson read in Parliament in support of the recognition of the Sandinista after Somoza was overthrown, and many other progressive positions in the international arena. The United States sold F-16 fighters to the then Venezuelan government. This is long before Chavez and Maduro sold fighter planes so that they can bomb Guyana. And they were threatening to invade Guyana. They wanted to invade Guyana. And Burnham launched the People's Militia, every citizen a soldier. Are we forgetting something here? Now you have a government in Venezuela that the US is opposed to. Guyana is their friend. And it brings us back to Henry Kissinger, what he always said. And our politicians don't seem to understand this. America has no permanent friends and no permanent enemies, only permanent interests. Look what they did in Syria. A man that they had a bounty on, they didn't drone him, they didn't kill him. But the man who led the struggle to defeat ISIL in Syria and Iraq, they droned him, killed him, General Qasem Soleimani of Iran. But they took Jelani al-Shara, took off his combat outfit, and he's wearing a suit. He's an ally now of the United States and Israel. So, my point is, getting back to Venezuela. David, I don't know if you've ever been to Venezuela, but I'll tell you, the first time I went to Caracas was 1981, a conference at the Central University of Caracas. It was sponsored by the Libyan, on the Libyan ideology, the Green Book. And when I arrived at the airport, what I was struck, one of the things I picked up was the invisibility of Black people. The only time I saw Black Venezuelans at the airport was when I entered the washroom area. They were cleaning the washroom, pull aside for you to go through. Good. Then I went to Venezuela in transit, spent 2 days in transit and then moved. And you go to Venezuela now, you will see it's different. You see all the immigration officers, young immigration officers, women and men, Afro-Venezuelans, indigenous Venezuelans. And the Bolivarian Revolution has moved Africans and indigenous peoples from the margin of Venezuelan society to the center. Now, you know, anyone, if you study Latin American, so-called Latin American society, race and class are very powerful dynamics here. Race is a very powerful dynamic. When Evo Morales was elected president of Bolivia, there were white Bolivians with roots, many of them, some of them, their ancestors after the collapse of Nazi Germany fled there, whole German communities. They said, we don't want any indigenous president. They wanted to break away, take away a particular region that is rich in resources and establish an independent state, and they were getting it back in the US. Good. Now, what I'm saying is in Venezuela, if you look at it, as people are saying, look at the people in the streets who are carrying the guns. Look at the people who are carrying the guns in Venezuela marching the streets. They're Africans, brown skin, and indigenous. Yes. Look at the ones, look carefully and see who is waving and calling for regime change in Miami. And you will see it's the white Venezuelans, the white Cubans, and the white, those from Nicaragua and so. That is where you find those people. But now on our issue, Guyana, I believe, okay, once something is out of the womb, as they say, you cannot stuff the baby back into the womb. So Essequibo belongs to Guyana, yes. Yes, it does, and I believe that. I'll get to Maduro. But the question here now is, Essequibo belongs to Guyana, and Guyana belongs to who? To you and me on paper. But 16 families, this is a well-kept secret in this country, 16 families own tremendous land, thousands of acres of land in this country. And people are struggling to get some land.
And what's the ethnicity of those
16 families? I can name them. I can name them if I want.
Go ahead.
But 16 families own thousands of acres of mining land, forest land, and quarry lands in this country.
Yes.
And this dynamic does not change, irrespective of which party gets in. The only person that addressed this issue was Forbes Burnham.
What's the ethnicity of those 16 families?
They're from the Portuguese and the Indian ethnicity, and between those who are mixed, what you can, yes. Well, what you'll say,
any African family there?
Some of them got Portuguese names. They mix,
Yes. Any African family?
Not to my knowledge.
Any Amerindian family?
Not to my knowledge.
All right. Point well
right? 16 families, and yes. It does not change. So, and this is the reality. Now, did President Maduro? Yes, I have said it that the statements that Maduro made was not helpful. But you, David, you will understand. And I always recommend to the young ones, I said, read Mao Zedong. You don't have to be a Maoist or Marxist, on contradiction and on the correct handling of contradiction. For me, the fundamental contradiction here, or the principal contradiction, is between us trying to fight to complete the national liberation struggle for true independence, to maintain the Caribbean as a area, for a zone of peace.
Yes.
Right? And the Venezuelan thing goes on the back burner, because even if there's regime change, and there's no regime change, even if there's regime change in Venezuela, let's say tomorrow there's regime change, I'll tell you what, and Trump installs Machado, which can't happen because there's going to be a prolonged war, guerrilla war in Venezuela, civil war. Now, look at the hundreds of thousands that came out in Venezuela. People are saying this is the man you say is a dictator. Good. Now, let's say tomorrow there's a regime change. Let's put it that way. And they install a puppet to Washington. And that person says, okay, Machado says, okay, Mr. Trump, you got our oil. And so we've had a territorial dispute with Guyana, issue with Guyana for decades. We'd like to resolve this issue. And Trump, seeing the world in terms of real estate and very transactional, will say, okay, and this is possible. This is possible. Trump will say, okay, Guyana, this is the deal. You keep half of Essequibo and Venezuela keep half. What are our politicians going to do? What are they going to do?
Right. And I think that's a fundamental point that we...
What are they going to do?
We have to ponder. But let me ask you this, Gerald, because
yes.
I think we progressives have to be straight sometimes.
Yes.
Why Chavez, who has done so much for the working people in Venezuela, who has done so much for the countries in the Eastern Caribbean in terms of Petro-Caribbean and further afield, and his successor Maduro, why they did not, in the name of anti-imperialism, in the name of justice for our post-colonial peoples, why couldn't they just bury that Venezuelan thing? Is it not part of the progressive tradition that issues that were created by the imperialists, as you say, and I agree with you, why the anti-imperialists, when they came to power, didn't straighten that Guyanese thing?
Well, David, Chavez, when he visited Guyana, I wasn't here. I was residing abroad, but I followed it. Chavez said to the government, he said, this territorial thing with Essequibo and all of that is a colonial creation. Let's put it to the back burner and move forward. Chavez said it. And I think Maduro wanted to go. I think Maduro was going in that direction too. But something happened. Something happened that got the Venezuelans, that really got the Venezuelans angry. And I think it was when the Venezuelans found out that the government, was trying to quietly put down a military base. I don't know if you can remember, a couple of years ago, a journalist in Britain raised this question with, I think it was a British Defense Secretary or Foreign Secretary, on this issue of some British military base in Guyana. And he dodged the question, right? I heard of it. I heard of it outside, and I wrote a letter about it. So I think Maduro and them, of course, they have friends who provide intelligence to them and they see things. And I think that agitated Maduro. If that is the way to go, Maduro was going, I don't think by making the noise and threatening and including Essequibo as part of Venezuelan territory, I don't think that was the right thing. But I hear people say that Maduro was going to invade Guyana. Let me tell you, why would Maduro want to invade Guyana when the Venezuelan economy was battered, right? Venezuela is going to invade Guyana when they know that's like serving it up on a silver platter to the Americans. And for full-scale invasion of Guyana, you will have to go through Brazil. And Brazil was not going to that. So this thing that Maduro was going to invade Guyana, that was a lie, right? That was a lie being sold to the government of Guyana. This is what the external intelligence agencies do. And David, you know, you put everything together. We have to put the things together. Remember the Cubana bombing of 1976? We lost 11 Guyanese on that plane. Many Cubans died and some Korean diplomats. Freddie Lugo was a Venezuelan, and he was one of the men who planted the bomb. He spent about 3 months in a maximum security prison in Venezuela and then escaped. Well, some intelligence agency allowed him to escape. The intellectual authors of that bombing, Posadas, Corrales, and Bosch, resided in Miami in the United States and were never touched. Never touched. They went on to carry out other acts of terrorism. My point is this. Do you know, many people are not aware of this, that when that bomb was planted on that plane in Trinidad, the bombers, it's there, you can read it. I heard Ralph Gonzalez reading it out at a conference at Barbados at Caville. The bombers, when they arrived, when they got off the plane in Barbados, they went to a hotel, checked in at a hotel. The name of the hotel is provided. Made a phone call to the U.S. Embassy, went to the U.S. Embassy for a meeting, went back to the hotel, checked out, went to another hotel in South Bar, and then were out in the afternoon. What I'm saying is that they were protected by the U.S.
Yeah. You've made that case. You've made that case very strongly here tonight, Gerald. The case that superpowers don't have constant allies. They shift based on their interest. I am not sure about the critique of Maduro, who progressive and Chavez, and the way they dealt with the Guyana thing. But let's move on. On. So we are in this world, and at the beginning I pointed out that I'm not isolating what's happening in Venezuela or what happened in Venezuela and what's happening in Venezuela with what's happening in Gaza, what's happening in Iran, what's happening in the attempt to get hold of Greenland. I'm trying to get you to try to explain to us what this all mean in the larger scheme of things. Are we seeing a new world order where countries can go in and snatch the leader of another country? Countries can shoot down protesters. Countries can annihilate a people, 300,000 of them. Are we seeing the breakdown of the world order as we know it? A world order that guarantees that people of the world live in peace. Are we seeing it? You've been very tough on the Americans, understandably so. Mm-hmm. But what about the Iranians? Mm-hmm. Well, what about that? Are we? I mean, if you can shoot down protesters like that, I don't care. Your right to protest is sacrosanct. And, it's not 2 people, 3 people. So are we seeing east, in the west, in the north? Are we seeing a world that is in chaos?
Absolute chaos. But I just want to say this.
Yeah.
This so-called rules-based order with international law and all that has collapsed. Trump said, what is international law?
Yeah.
The Monroe Doctrine, Trump has taken the Monroe Doctrine to an absurd level.
Yeah.
Calling it the Dunroe Doctrine or whatever.
Right.
Now, if you look, and we'll get back, you say I'm harsh on Americans. If you look at the Monroe Doctrine carefully, the Monroe Doctrine never took the independence and sovereignty of the countries in America's so-called backyard seriously. They never did.
Right.
Never did.
Right.
America reluctantly recognized the independence of Chile, Colombia, Chile, Peru, and Ecuador, a number of countries. They did. It was 60 years after the Haitian Revolution that more than 60 years after the Haitian Revolution that the United States, some formal recognition to Haitian independence. And that was when Abraham Lincoln signed, right, the whole thing about freeing the slaves.
The Emancipation Proclamation.
The Emancipation Proclamation, because the economy, the slaveholding South.
Yes.
Right? And the industrial, as Manning Marble pointed out with the Industrial Revolution that kicked off heavily in the North.
Right.
So that was for economic reasons, not human. Because Lincoln, if you read the Lincoln-Douglas debates, Lincoln believed that the white man was superior to the black man.
Yes. And while in government, he support the American Colonization Society.
That's right.
Africans.
Well said. Correct. So let's get that, because people still talking this nonsense. So what you're saying is this. Now, we have seen country after country taken down. Good, on the basis of lies, on the basis of a lie, like Iraq. We were told that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. It was nothing of the sort. They did not. And that's how you get someone like Scott Ritter today, who've taken up that position against the US government and so. Because he was an inspector and he went there, and as he said, they did not want the inspectors to complete their work. They went ahead, pushed through the resolution, no-fly zone, bombed Iraq. The rest is history. They destroyed Libya on the basis of a lie that Gaddafi was killing his people. Absolute lies. Now, hear what happened in Libya, and we'll get now to Iran. When there was a there was a protest in Benghazi. And when Gaddafi heard of it, Gaddafi said the people have a right to protest. Then something happened. The protesters, the crowd was infiltrated, and they started shooting at the police. Right. They killed a number of policemen, and then people realized what was going on. Good? And then the rest is history. You know what happened? Now, Libya fought for 9 months before it collapsed. 9 months. Qatar sending troops against them. Omar Bashir allowed the NATO to fly through, right? Hoping that they release him, but he ended up in prison because once the white man uses you, he discards you.
Right.
History is little with many examples. Good. You had Qatari, the Al Qaeda fighters, and everything. They're all in there. Look at Libya today. And they moved on. Now listen what happened in Iran. I've been following what's happening in Iran. I listen to commentators on all sides, Europe, everybody. What started off as a peaceful protest because in the bazaars and so the march, the small things. So it was a peaceful protest, and there was no police around. But then they observed something. People started going into the crowd, highly disciplined, well organized.
Right.
Good. They burnt a nurse alive. She tried to escape. They set her to fire. 2 young men were burnt in a mosque. They were killing people. And it got out of hand because they even moved. You heard Pompeo. He said alongside every Iranian protester, you will have a Mossad agent. Pompeo said that.
Yes.
So they moved in groups, people from ISIL and other groups. You see, the Western media keeps these things away from people, right? And then they realize that this thing is getting out of hand. Now, the regime reacted. The Western media were showing you the demonstrators, but the Western media did not show the millions that came out marching in support of the regime. Now, David, me and you know that we can sit you can sit and observe the world, but when you're in the trenches, it's a different thing. Now, let's look at something. When Thomas Jefferson was president of the United States, there were a group of Americans who opposed the Young Republic, the 13 states. Yeah. They wanted to remain under the monarchy.
Right.
And they used to refer to them as the Tories. Herbert Aptheker, the American historian who wrote Democracy, Freedom, and the State, and Michael Parenti brought this out. Eugene Genovese, you know Eugene Genovese,
yes,
the historian.
Right.
And those people opposed the American state. What did Jefferson do? Jefferson retaliated by imprisoning the leaders without trial, took away the printing press, closed the churches, and persecuted them. Many were killed and others fled. I am saying this, that every struggle for change, for radical social change, to bring about the empowerment of the dispossessed, will breed reaction. It will breed reaction. And as Lenin pointed out in State of Revolution, don't make revolution if you can't hold on to power. Try to hold on to power.
And I hear you, and
So I am saying that what I'm seeing in the street, whether the Iranian people were in excess and so, I am not no liberal. I think the way the world is, and I am going to be very unforgiving to the American establishment, the elites,
yes,
to the British and all of them, because these people, as Walter Rodney pointed out in How Europe and to Develop Africa and Capitalism and Slavery by Eric Williams, these people, these West European countries and the United States, they built their economies, their society on colonial genocide. 50 years after the arrival, the so-called discovery of Christopher Columbus, more than how many millions of indigenous people were wiped out? Millions of Africans were captured and enslaved. They built their economies on primitive accumulation, what Marxists would call primitive accumulation, stole well, and the enslavement of Africans that built their societies. And these people would not even today give an official apology for enslaving Africans, much as to address the issue of reparations. Look at what happened in Jamaica with the hurricane. Yeah. And Britain only pledged how many million pounds they pledged? Right? And King Charles is the head, constitutionally, the head represented by the Governor General of Jamaica. Look how much money they pledge. Nothing much. So I do not believe that demons are capable of transforming themselves into agents of light. When someone like Rubio, when someone like Marco Rubio, for example, can say that President Ali is a very good and strategic security partner, I am worried.
Yeah, but Gerald, and you've made your point here tonight that
I am worried.
You feel very strongly about the role the United States has played historically and continues to play in the world. Let me bring you home. I remember years ago, I was chairing a meeting at Linden, I think a PCD meeting, and Chedi was speaking, Dr. Jagan, you know, and he was talking about what's going on in the world and Kampuchea and so on, and the crowd started to chant, "Come home, Chedi, come home. I don't want this crowd to say, come home. So let's bring you home. Let's bring." I didn't know. I refuse. Dr. Cherry Jagan speaking, and they're giving me note, tell Cherry to start dealing with things, but I frightened for going to give Cherry the note. So Cherry continue with Kampuchea and so, let me come home, let me come home. Let me come home. Gerald, do you think the government of Guyana is handling this Venezuelan situation properly?
No. No.
Tell us why.
No. Let me, in fact, we brought out something about that. First of all, as I pointed out, right? Venezuela is our neighbor, David. We cannot change that. Right. That's the reality. The United States changes its position. Now, I'll get to this, back to this. Couple weeks back or couple months ago, the U.S. ambassador to Guyana said that if Mr. Mohammed gets into parliament, that they will have a problem, it would be complicated, and they will have to, it would, saying it would be difficult for the U.S. to deal with this type of thing and so on. Now we're hearing something different.
What are we hearing now?
The United States ambassador, the British High Commissioner, and the EU, the Canadian, they're saying, swearing, get the leader of the opposition in. Well,
so they changed their mind. Why do you think they've changed their mind?
Well, I believe, this is what I believe. I believe that they are a group of people or forces who, when they take up their position in parliament, remember I'm telling you this today.
Yes.
We're going to take very anti-Cuban and anti-Chinese position in this country.
You're talking about Win.
I believe that Win will do that.
Yes.
I believe Win will do that. I believe we'll see a lot of anti-Chinese sentiment. That push, and this is what the Americans want. Good?
Let me put the thing in perspective. We have a new world order in which the Russians, the Chinese, the United States are the leading forces, but you have other forces, such as India and the BRICS crowd and so on and so forth.
Yes.
And you're saying this change in position vis-a-vis Mohammed may lead to a situation where Mohammed gets off the story that they're saying that he's accused of this, but that then he goes into parliament and plays a particular role with an American agenda. That's what.
Well, I hear people being saying that Mr. Mohammed would be extradited. I don't think so.
You have your doubts about that.
I have my doubts about that. I don't think so. I don't think so. The other thing is, David, hear my position.
All right, go ahead.
You see, don't tell me about some man who's planning he might box me. Once the man who boxed me, I got to focus on those who boxed me. Those are the people I got to look at.
Okay, got you.
The Chinese didn't enslave my ancestors. The Chinese didn't build their country on my ancestors' back. The Russians didn't go and capture Africans. The Russians didn't have colonies. The Russians under the old Soviet Union supported the liberation struggles. Good. Now, listen to President Paul Kagame of Rwanda. Who I am not a fan. I don't like the man. Good. But this is what Paul Kagame said. He said that when dealing with the Chinese respect us. They respect our independence, our sovereignty. They do not tell us what to do. They do not bring conditions with the aid and the programs that the aid that is given and the joint programs that they embark on with us. He said they don't do that. Good. The Chinese are building. Look at what the Chinese are building. The Chinese go into places and they're building. They said they're building dams, they're building hospitals. President Mugabe said something when they had the Africa-China summit. The Chinese president was sitting there. And Mugabe said, let's cheer this man. He said, look what China is doing for us. When those who colonized us before should be doing, but they're not doing. Good. So, getting back to what Trump did with this order, the United States is in crisis, David. The US is in decline. Good. The rise of BRICS. You see Zambia now. Zambia is doing business with the Chinese, selling metals, precious metals in yuan. Good. Now the US, this whole thing about the Dunn Road, the corollary Dunn Road doctrine or whatever Trump calls it, is really aimed at the Chinese. You see, Trump, Trump is not a peacemaker.
As the Monroe Doctrine was aimed at the Europeans.
That's right.
So that's the larger context. But I'm still bringing you home.
Yes, I'm coming home. So what I'm saying is the government of Guyana, I think the government of Guyana, reading the international situation, I don't know what they're doing. You have a Ministry of Foreign Affairs. You have people to sit down and make assessment. Mr. Jagdeo said that Mr. Maduro in Venezuela is the threat to the Caribbean. Which eyes are you seeing that with?
Yeah. But that's part of the problem. You have to give him credit. That's a part of the problem. What he's not doing is that he's not looking at the thing in problematic terms. But here's the story. Here's the story. You reference Burnham back then. And there was a clear foreign policy for Guyana, given the country was non-alignment, African liberation, Caribbean integration, and a new world order with equitability for poor countries. We had a clear foreign policy. We were active in the Group of 77. We were active in the liberation movement. That's very, very, very clear. I am arguing that once Burnham died, and Burnham died in 1985, the Cold War ended with the fall of the Berlin Wall, officially, 1989. I'm arguing that ever since then, Guyana has not had a coherent foreign policy. Do you disagree with me?
I agree with you, absolutely, because when Burnham died and Mr. Hoyt took office, Mr. Hoyt took the PNC on a complete shift to the right. Okay?
Right.
And David, I want to say this here this evening, tonight. Let me tell you something apart from being Pan-Africanist. I am a socialist. And the ethical basis now, I'm talking now from an ethical, moral, and spiritual basis of socialism, can be found in the Gospels. It can be found in the Quran. It can be found in the Buddhist tradition. Right? There's a whole movement in Southeast Asia called Buddhist socialism. Let me tell you this. So I was in the PNC.
And don't forget African socialism.
Yes. Of Leopold Senghor and Tommy Boyle. So yes. Right. You wrote an excellent piece for David Granger's magazine, the Guyana Review. Is it? Yes.
Yes.
Where you did a thing on Askria.
On Askria, yes.
And you made a very good point when you pointed out that many PNC members and people from the YSM were members of Askria.
Of Askria, right.
And then you had the split, right? And some stayed on and some went. Now, the YSM in those days was, if you went to a YSM central executive meeting and eavesdrop, you will think, is that the PNC youth term or an anti-Burnham organization? Good. The PPP couldn't do that.
The
YSM activists couldn't do that. They would have been.
The YSM was to the left of the party.
Yes. And Burnham, we used to get away. We used to say things. We used to talk about revolution within the revolution.
Yes.
We used to attack party leaders right wing. When Mr. Hoyt took over, Mr. Hoyt went with the Washington Consensus.
Right.
Neoliberal economics. ERP, economic recovery structure, ERP that the WPA rightly then referred to as economic empty rice pot.
Empty rice pot. Empty
Good.
rice pot. Yes.
Then they start to privatize. Good. They sell out Guyana timbers. They sold the Sonata textile mill and everything. Good. The IMF, World Bank dictates. Downsize the army, downsize the public service. Okay, David. When you selling off state assets, who had the money to buy it? Who had the money to buy it? The Indian capitalist class.
The Indian capitalist class, yes.
I know some of the Judases and traitors who sat at the Pegasus Hotel and did that deal with the Demerara Wood when they sold Lord Beaverbrook.
Yes, yes, yes.
The ink didn't dry properly at Beaverbrook. Sell it. Bernie Grant got up in the Labour, who's the Guyanese member of parliament, and they lashed the conservatives on it because Beaverbrook was tied to the conservative.
Right.
I know those people. My point is this, and I'm saying it. Mr. Burnham, the problem in Mr. Burnham party, Julius Nyerere once said you can't build socialism without socialists.
That's right.
I do not believe, and I'm going to say it here, I call a spade, I don't give a damn. I do not believe that Mr. Hoyt, Mr. Hamilton Green, and half of those people, I think they love Burnham because Burnham was a bright man. He was charismatic, eloquent. They love him for that. But I don't think they were really into his ideas. Right?
Gerald, I'll have to bring you
back.
I
believe, okay, I'm coming, is home.
You're home.
After they sold off the state assets, and the IMF and World Bank tell you downsize the army. You downsize the army. When you downsize the army, who going home? Portuguese? Pereira going home? Who going home? When you downsize the public service and the army, who going home? Africans. So the marginalization started then. It may not have been a thing, but along that lines. And when Chedi got into office, Chedi said, well, okay, I'm back. I'm happy. The Americans put pressure. She said, no problem. I'm rocking the boat. And they carry on with the same thing. But I must admit that Dr. Jagan was somewhat reluctant about the private, like carrying on it. But the privatization, the neoliberalization of the economy, this neoliberal economics reached its height with President Jack Dio.
Gerald Pereira here tonight, a lot. It's very clear where he stands.
I with PNC. I don't know anything of Burnham founded the People's National Congress, not the People's National Congress reform. I don't know what is that.
Yeah. Gerald is here. Gerald, I want to get your thoughts on one thing because, well, two things. They're connected. What do you make of at least 60,000, maybe more Africans who voted in that number for an Indian man at an election? First time it ever happened in Guyana. It never happened in Trinidad. First time. What do you make of that?
Well, David, some people are saying that, you're seeing a crossover voting, that it has broke the racial thing and all of that, right? I don't know anything about that.
All right.
Right? I don't agree with that because I am on the ground. I go into communities, and I'll tell you now, we are growing. A lot of people are joining us. We run our classes, the George James Institute. You see on the website. We run our classes fortnightly. We just got the new class coming in because the Christmas holiday. And we do what we have to do. We don't go around making noise. But I can tell you this. I listen to people in the communities. I saw people with Win t-shirt. I said, man, you can't wear OVP and t-shirt. He said, no. Right? People told me that they were paid, they were given money to wear t-shirts.
You mean the Win t-shirts? All right. Yeah. We're going to come back to that. One last thing now. You heard that tape recently purported to be the voice of Shell Mohammed talking to an African man, and whatever the African man do wrong, saying, well, you're behaving just like them African people. And there was almost like a lukewarm reaction to it from part of the black community, which distresses me, right? But I think the logic of having voted for the Mohammeds, now that the Mohammeds, it may be just like many others into anti-black racism, it now muzzles some of the African population. Am I inventing something here?
David, to be honest with you, I heard of it. I know there's a lot of AI generated things and so, right? But I'm glad you raised it. I have to take a look at it. It was drawn to my attention, but I had a lot happening because
right, you did.
My wife was really down with a severe bout of the flu.
Yeah,
and I was under a lot of
pressure.
So
you haven't had a chance.
But now you've drawn my attention to it. I will look at it, and I'm going to do a comment on it.
Gerald Pereira,
yeah,
leader of the Organization for the Victory of the People, a Pan-Africanist, a integrationist, a black nationalist, Pan-Africanist, and a socialist.
I just want.
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to say this. You know, David, in the early days, I just want to say this. There were people who the lines were clearly, the boundaries were drawn. If you were PNC, you didn't want to go up at WPA headquarters in Cruel Street or PP. Former President Ramatar tell you, I used to walk right up in Freedom House and go and have heated debates, with them. And then I would go up and meet Brother Guyana upstairs. And one time we were discussing the Sendero Luminoso in Peru. And the special branch man was right across at the shop there. That corner shop.
At Alexander Street.
I didn't give a damn. Because I wanted what in the YSM and the PNC we wanted to see. There were those of us who wanted to see a grand unity of the PNC, the PPP, and the WPA. Right? We wanted to see that. That's what we wanted to see in this country. Because you know that the right wing, the UF and the Liberator and all of those people were insignificant. Right? These were three parties with mass that had support. And that is what we wanted to see. And as a Pan-Caribbean, as a Caribbean man, a part of Caribbean civilization, I come in that tradition to carry on in that tradition of people like Tim Hector, who I knew well. Good. Macandal Daga, that the Black Power uprising that shaped us. Right? CLR James, right? Marcus Garvey. Good. And at home, the struggles of all of those, right? Hubert Nathaniel Critchlow and all of those people, and the sugar workers who were shot, all of those people who fought for freedom. That's the tradition. But David, I must say this, and it's important. There is a group of ethnic chauvinists who are not, they're hostile to CARICOM. They're hostile to CARICOM for various reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And many of them, the whole thing with why they oppose the Federation. And so today, we have some of them. There is one who is based in the United States. He's attacking Maduro for Essequibo, but he wants Guyana to become a state of the United States. Well, David, I'll tell you here now to the audience. And it's an open secret. I had good military training. I had good military training in Libya. Very good training. And if I'm the last guy standing in the tradition, my ancestors didn't fight one set of white people that struggle against them for us to get freedom, to hand it over to that. Said, no way. I'll be the last man standing. I will have to do it. Right? Because I come in that tradition defined. I am at my age, I don't give a damn. But I will stand in defense of African freedom any part of the world. And those countries, and I'm saying this, that is why if you go, David, and you check whether it's the Communist Party of Kenya, you look at all the Pan-African organizations all over the world, they're saying that the Bolivarian Revolution, not Gerald Pereira saying this, the Bolivarian Revolution is part of the World African Revolution because, you know, it moved Africans and indigenous from the margins to the center. Finally, do you know, David, that the present ambassador to Guyana is African and indigenous?
Mm-hmm.
And before that ambassador, you had a black woman was ambassador, Dr. Martinez, and one before. And look at Brazil. Brazil has the largest concentration of Africans after Nigeria. And Brazil has never sent a black man or woman as ambassador to this country. The first Cuban ambassador to Guyana, Iban Cesar Martinez, was an African. The present Cuban ambassador to Barbados, Yanel Cardenas, is an African woman. The present Cuban ambassador to UK is a black woman. And most of the Venezuelan ambassadors in Africa, go and check who they are.
Gerald Pereira,
one black man in pointing no gun at no black man.
Gerald Pereira saying it here tonight. You may not like, some of you may not like the views that you heard there, but they are as honest as they come. Gerald, thank you very much, my brother, for coming through. And I hope that your stay away will not be as long as the interim. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thanks.
Gerald Pereira there, anti-imperialist, socialist, Pan-Africanist, Caribbean integrationist. Really laying it out from his perspective here tonight. Tomorrow night we are going to be off. I have to attend to some family matters which have been engaging my attention for the past couple of months. I think I may have said somewhere else that my mother is not too well, and you know, in and out of hospital, and you know, those things happen as people get old. But you know, it has been occupying some of my attention, and so tomorrow we are taking the night off as I try to engage that family issue there. But we'll be back on Monday with another edition of Politics 101. And I want to thank you all and to say, as usual, there is love because you are the backbone of this program. So I'll see you all on Monday. Have a good weekend, and lots is happening. So by the time we come back on Monday, there will be a lot to talk about.